So, I don't know if it will be awesome after you have seen this, let me know if I am exaggerating a lot. This is about Pabawi. Pabawi 0 actually. I am Alessandro Franceschi, working on Puppet since 2007, so one of the good old guys as some guys here. Basically everything I've done in terms of code has been open source. For me there is no reason to do something which is not open source. I consider myself more the operations guy than a developer, and maybe on something else, still the photo which I used for a long time on in my profiles is 19 years ago, so I guess something has changed in the meantime. Today I'm going to talk about Pabawi. This product, free as beer and speech, of course, which has been sponsored by a wonderful customer, and for which maybe there will be sponsors in the future, because this is a modern front end for class infrastructures. For me, I define class infrastructure whatever it is with the virtual machines, physical machines, where you have to deal with the good old servers, as we used to call them. That's the tool which can be useful for you. It's done in TypeScript, Node.js, Express in the ground, front-end in Svelte, and so on, with a lot of wonderful technologies about which I don't know basically almost anything, because as you can imagine, everything is done by AI. So, AI developed tool started 2 months ago, the development, and now it is at the stage you are going to see. As we can imagine, it's not just white coding you ask and things happen by miracle. We all know now this. I'm not going to lecture you about how to work with AIs, because I guess you already know a lot and everybody is learning while doing stuff. I guess the logic starting points are when you want to develop something, make something with an AI, is to know what you want to do and what you want to obtain, and be sure that the AI understands and knows what you want to do. So at the end is a matter of the usual skills which we need to start to develop over time in these crazy times, like planning carefully your product. Adam already told everything about AI interactions and what is AI code and whatever. Let me summarize all the common stuff. Context, of course, is king, is important. It's important the prompt as well as you ask things to be concise, provide the right directions, understand the context and provide the right context. Always check what is done by the AI in wonderful ways which don't work at the first time. And then keep on overlooking, understanding, following what is the process. It's not just some AI, it's also a matter of reading what these AI do, the thousands of texts of lines which are generated every time. It makes a lot of sense to read, also to, from my perspective in this case, learn about the technology you are using, you are developing with. So I'm learning a lot about TypeScript, things that I didn't know before. So that's the side good efforts of doing this kind of development. I use Hero for this specific implementation. Spec-driven development displays your tasks, your things to do in small tasks, which are easy to handle and to analyze in a proper way. There are some contextual documentation you can provide to keep an organized code base, so it doesn't start from scratch anytime. But the point is, I guess it's better just to show you the thing, which is Pabawi version 0. I'm going to do demo now, a live demo as everything which is going to happen here. Let me see. So this is the web front end. The application is currently working on my machine, so it works on my machine. It's at the moment this web interface for Bolt, Puppet, PuppetDB, Puppet Server, and Ira. You just need to configure your endpoints. In this case, are remote machines somewhere in the cloud via VPN. You have a setup instructions. Of course, this is already configured, but you can have contextual instruction how to set up and configure your integrations. And once you have the integrations done, you can also have some of them enabled, not all of them. You can have the nice things that you can get from PuppetDB queries, so the contents of Puppet reports and stuff, the inventory of your infrastructure, what is there, and the remote executions are done by in this case, Bolt front-end. So let's get a bit into details. This is an inventory of the nodes from two different sources, Bolt and PuppetDB. You can filter them, you can do the usual nice stuff. Click on a node, specific node, we are talking about machines, no? With all the servers of the node, you get the usual, so to say, information about the node, in this case facts, Puppet runs, executions done in this node. You have access to the facts, you have access in Puppet to the PuppetDB world of knowledge which we know about a node, because there is a lot of information about which we just needed to get. For example, we can have an idea of the reports on a single machine, the events, what has happened in this machine in the last run or in previous weeks or whatever. You can have an insight of what Puppet is managing of this node, so the resource management, the classes included in the catalog, the files, the file packages. So it's information, it's on PuppetDB, it's also here, with all the details that you may like to have. At the same time, integrating with Puppet means also integrating with PuppetDB, Puppet server, and being able to do a catalog diff between two different versions of your control repo. So in this case, I'm comparing a catalog from the production branch of my control repo and another branch, and I can see the differences in the catalogs, so the resources which have been added, removed, and so on. We do the fancy details, because once there is the data, the machine is able to create fancy interfaces around it, and this is the interface which was created, and that's one of the features which comes with the Puppet integration. The Puppet integration in terms of Puppet server direct integrations. You can also get, in terms of integration with Puppet, do a flush of the cache of the specific environment. You can still not deploy, but I can integrate the deployment of the environments as well. There is integration with Hira. Hira actually is configurable just by setting a local path where you have your control repo with your files and your Hira settings. Once you have this, you can do global keys research from the global interface. So, for example, let me get this hierarchy, which I set in my hierarchy, where I'm seeing what are the different values in the different files, according also to and with the information about the hierarchy file, which has been used as a backend. So that's the global interface to Hira. But of course, you can have a similar interface at the node level. So you can say for a given node, you can query what is the value of a given key, and actually it resolves your hierarchy. So whatever are the files which can contain data for this specific node can be looked after, and you can get whatever values you need to get for your researches. So that's the integrations with this is the case, no? Where you see also the file where this specific data for the node is taken. Similarly, you have a front end for Bolt. So Bolt web front end can be basically, let me show you again back to the node detail page. From here, you can run actions. At the moment, the only plugin integrated is the Bolt plugin, but think about this also in a sensible way. You can install software, you can run commands. Here there is a white list of commands you can run, and you can run tasks, Bolt tasks from so this is the previous command I just executed. Tasks, it automatically discovers the tasks available in the module, in the Bolt project directory which you configured. So you can easily run them. You can automatically set the parameters and run your task. You have the history of the execution done on this specific node. You have the fancy, also my guess, interface to see what has happened. You can see the details for a given task, what was the output or whatever it was. So that's the Pabawi version 6, actually 0.6. The current public one is 0.5. This is just a refining and update, but it is basically what you see here is what is already online. This is going to be published maybe soon, today, maybe even. But the whole point is that's what has been done in these 2 months of AI-driven web development. And is a web interface good for, I guess, Puppet users, Bolt users, where this with the good old Puppet stuff. Any question for the moment on this?
This is great.
You like it?
I would much rather use that than some enterprise product.
Well.
How long did it take you to write?
So, started beginning of, let's say, middle of November. Not full time, not all the times. Kiro was the king here, various iterations, and still some crusts on old code in this code which is already legacy, which has been finished 2 days ago. So these are the times which we are living. But yeah, what I would like to keep is this as a product, this Pabawi Zero, since it's already good, and it does what it does, and just a few things can be done to refine and make it even better. For the Puppet world, I would like to keep it as a Pabawi Zero thing, but actually, you know, once you start to eat, in this case the AI lunch, you never get fed enough. So you see how things can be done quickly with a lot of oversight. I'm not saying that it's been easy. $100 of AI rates cost is not the real cost here. It's this time spent training, making it right, get the right information, convert it in the right way, and use it in the proper ways. But at the end, the results are definitely much better than I would have been able to do by myself in years of learning and development. So that's the nice things of these days. But I would say that's not all. So just to give you some quick ways to eventually try this at home. This is a TypeScript application. You can clone the repository, install npm your gazillions of dependencies, then run a backend, which is runs on about 3000 default, of course. You can configure front end. Your configuration file in this context is your .env file in the backend directory. So here is where you need to do your configurations. You can run it also via a container, better probably for most of the cases. So I would suggest take just a directory where you place inside your .env file with your local variables, which you need to remember are relative to the container, so all the paths are inside the container. Then you can run it with just a docker run command or docker compose, but run this in this way. You know what you mount, you know the env file, of course, the local env file, and then you get that latest or whatever, probably not better to whatever version of Pabawi. So that's how you configure it. You run it from a container, and the .env file where you configure the whole stuff is just a simple inify like file. Bolt project path is enough to be set in order to enable the Bolt integration. There is you need to have a Bolt project directory, which in many cases can be your control repo. Maybe you have a separated repo. Maybe you don't use Bolt. If you don't use Bolt, don't set the Bolt project path. PuppetD enables the PuppetD integration. You just need to configure the server URL. If you use the default port, I guess that will be defined. You need, of course, to reach it from the machine where you run the container or the application. Puppet SSL certificates needed, signed by Puppet server. Typically, it could be the local certificates you already have on the machine. It's a Puppet managed machine. I would suggest to create a dedicated certificate, maybe call it Pabawi so you know where you use it and for what you use it. you need to provide it in some paths accessible by the application. Similar for the PapaSaver plugin. PapaSaver plugin technically just does the catalog diff part. So that's you need it if you want to see the differences of catalogs on your machines. Otherwise, most of the information you're seeing in the face comes from the PapaDB interaction. Higher enabled is the last interaction plugin you can enable. You just need to specify where is a control repo, where you have your higher data, your control repo. Maybe here have your modules expanded, so deployed, so you have the full code base, because I didn't show you before. I can show you now. But Puppet, this thing is also a sort of the code analysis part. So once you have the control repo, why don't you try to do something with it? No? So unleash the AI powers and find, for example, statistics about most users classes, used code, some Puppet linked recommendations to do, some updates on the modules you may have in Puppet file which are not updated. Information is there. This is just the beginning. I think a lot of stuff interesting can be done in this context, but this is what is this thing currently doing. So back to us. This was the presentation part. Okay, 2 notes in case you want to have. This is a same env file for container managed Pabawi instance, where you mount the local directory, a directory called Pabawi, or anyway, in your where you run the machine, and you mount it under the /Pabawi directory in the repo, in the container. So basically, all the paths you find here should be related to the container, and here you may have a control repo file, a SSL file, and so that you can configure correctly what you. Basically, Pabawi is just a front end on what you have behind. So whatever you can do via Bolt, for example, the SSH, with whatever permission you can do from the command line when you run the command, the interface, that's the permissions you inherit. So that's, oh, I'm faster. I can slow down, or not? I have all the time. So let me show something more. Let me show version 1, because why having just version 0 when in last 3 days I started to do version 1. And version 1 of Pabawi actually is a bit more ambitious. Is the next iteration in terms of what you want to do. Let me switch to the branch. Oh no, I did a change just during the okay, so I'm using now the version 1 code base. The application is automatically running the background. It should automatically get the changes. There it is. This is what is, the development started 3 days ago, so it was not supposed to be here, but I think it's the most important thing I can show here now. Besides a working, fully nice, awesome web interface for Puppet. But this is not just about Puppet anymore. This is going to be about any kind of integration you may think about. It's work in progress, it just started. The idea is having users, raising the profiles, having a rollback-based access control on the resources you can run, on the integrations you can have. Is supposed to be fully automatically self-discovery, self-composing, magically things happening web interface with the menu, the home page, populating according to the integrations you want to introduce. Integrations, plugins are now totally separated, single directories, reusable, and distributable, and pluggable. That's the new architecture I'm setting up. And the first plugins are the ones which I already have, but I have to migrate them. Papawi, PapaDB, Bolt, whatever. It will be easy to add once you have a Bolt plugin, an Ansible plugin. It will be possible to add any kind of different plugins to do any kind of things that you can do on an infrastructure classic. Where you have virtual machines or physical machines to handle, you may need, and you are using tools like Ansible, Puppet, Isinga, Choria. You are using all the good old tools or new tools which deal with the virtual machines systems. So this is a scope. This is where Pabawi version 1 is supposed to try to do things. So having a web interface which somehow aggregates information from the tools which are already using in different infrastructures, having a lot of tools which can provide inventory services, so a list of machines you have at disposal, and then maybe a way to consolidate these views, having tools which do remote executions of commands, actions, tasks, playbooks, whatever you remotely execute with whatever tool is integrated and can be integrated. Having tools which allow you to get facts, information about nodes, having tools which can collect events about things happened on a node, so events coming from different integrations, and think about why any kind of different integration tools, like also provisioning tools, what creates the machine. And at this point, since we have, and we try to consolidate and aggregate information from different tools which we deal with servers, provisioning servers, installation of packages, operation stance, configuration stance, events related to monitoring the machine, everything can be aggregated in a single journal of the node. And that's the plan for version 1, is have a sort of journal of all the events, of the things that have happened on a specific node coming from the integrations which are configured. So this is supposed to be Pabawi 1, is work in progress, 3 days old. I guess with these times in 2 months it's ready. I plan to release it by the end of March, when there is we will see. Pluggable, with some core plugins already there, and then of course other possible plugins added. And by the way, since there is a backend, there is a road control access-based system, there is a front end, there also will be a CLI, because we can't do things without a CLI, especially if you think about maybe integrating stuff in your pipelines as well. As usual, no? MC, a fab, puppet, catalog, diff in a pipeline check could be useful. As usual. So, it has also that mode, which I guess is a feature which comes out of the box free. So that's it actually, that's the second demo. Pabawi is open source, that's the URL where you can get it from GitHub. As you've seen, it's either installable locally via npm, or you can use a Docker image. Version 6.0 is going to be released, I guess I can do it. It's the one you were seeing, basically working behind, but it's still not merged. So very soon, AMSX is the main sponsor of these developments. I hope that maybe people interested in some specific integration, or maybe having some custom needs, may involve and like to sponsor the project, to sponsor some specific integration. So if you know people who may be interested in a nice web interface, which maybe handle also some specific application, let me know and we can do things together. If you want to set this, anyone, first of all, is there anyone here using Puppet? Okay, so of the guys using Puppet, do you think this could be useful in your setup? Okay, if so, we can arrange free, as beer and whatever, a call where we set up together in next week's this thing on your environment, so I know how to do it quickly. Half an hour can be enough. You can see it, do it, use it, it's all free, no strings attached. If you like it and you want to integrate more integrations, let's talk. We do integration, 2 prompts, a lot of time checking what the prompts the AI has done, but that's the idea. So anyway, consider this. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, Alessandro Franceschi, you should find me, and we can set up Pabawi, and have that visibility on your setup as well. I've seen it in infrastructure of hundreds of nodes. It works well and fast as it's more or less working here. So I think it can adapt to different use cases. That's it, and that's all. Questions? You want to see these things? Yes.
I have one question. So you did this using AI. I'll rephrase the question. You did a lot of spectrum in development that AI helped you, and it was Kiro that you used with that, AWS Kiro?
So for the first version of Zero, it was done entirely with Kiro. With works well, but at the end, under the hoods it was Sonnet and Opus, so Claude. Then version 1 actually I started to do it with Gemini and also with Pilot, using partly Gemini, but again mostly Claude. And that was the part to this version, the version 1 basically happening there. I'm learning and trying and see things. Basically, I already see, first of all, the risks of code which is leaked, which has, it smells not well. But anyway, it always smells much better than any kind of code I would have been able to write in these things. So, for example, I think, generally speaking, for what I'm starting to see now, that rewriting in this context is much better than refactoring. So I have an existing code base with Puppet, with the 0 dot something, which is already 2 or 3 generations of ideas, because it started as a web interface for Bolt. Then I wanted to say, make it a version 0.1, which nobody saw besides me, was a web interface for Bolt only. Then let's add the Puppet integration, add plugins, so a plugin system which integrates the one of Bolt, but is not exactly the same code base. So you start to let the slop mount. So with version 1, which I started somehow from scratch, at least the starting point, the design, the pluggable plugin design system, with a different AI, in some way, probably it was still Claude. I think it's better now. The point is, and the pain will be to migrate these plugins. So all this stuff, now this is using the old code. So this is all the 0.5 code. Then this is 0.5 code. I have to reproduce this stuff with a new pluggable thing. And but for the moment, nothing works there yet. There are the foundations, but a lot of work to do there. So that's, I guess, the lessons which we are all learning. If you curate enough your product, you know what you're doing, you know what you want to do. If you know what you want, in this case, you knew enough about Puppet to know what to want for a web interface about Puppet. And it's a lot of taking care of mistakes of these pesky AI kids.
Do you use a lot of web components to do individual components?
So I relied on Svelte. I was suggested about Svelte by a friend of mine, just to simplify a bit the TypeScript, JavaScript overheading, and in that context, this widget-based approach where you can compose page in
because the web components make it very nice. You can make a specification per component, you create the data files for all your components, your general framework, and then you can focus on individual pieces and you can replace individual widgets.
You mean the web components native to...
There's a technology of web components.
Then,
so
okay, that's...
work those, and if you use them with AI, because the scope is the problem, it's a big web application.
Right.
This gives you to focus on a single component, just a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 lines, 2,000 lines, and it comes in a specification, and you can iterate on just that one component.
That's interesting. I mean, in some way, as I guess we are all realizing, the technology is not even, doesn't really matter what is done behind. No, it matters if you know it, or how you know it, or the right tools for the right languages for the right applications. But at this level, I mean, I really didn't write all the real code. I touched a lot of documentation, get rid of a lot of shit which is kept on written by the AIs and so on. But the code base basically is untouched. and could be any language, and probably we would be able to do similar nice, awesome things. So let me ask, is this awesome enough to deserve it in the title and the subtitle? Is this an awesome web interface? Just my hand raised, so that's a problem.
That's really
And not even a raise, but at least a word raised.
I'm loud enough, people know my hands up.
Okay, I count it as one. So that's it. I hope you will try to install it. It has this, I don't know, I showed you the setup of instructions to textual.
Yes,
No?
yes, yes.
So you see, it's very easy to configure if you already have a Puppet setup ongoing. And if you want, just ask me and we can do it together. Also because I need, yeah, please.
A couple of questions. How do you feel is it safe, relatively safe to use extensively AI in a software that has a privileged access to the infrastructure?
Okay. Yeah. So question one was about why using, if you're using AI extensively for development on mission critical potentially systems, if you can trust it or anyway rely on what is the result. And the second question, why use NPM? I start from the second one, NPM, well, TypeScript, and so it came out of the box with these 600 dependencies, which is, I will try to keep clean, make it clean. I'm not sure, I don't know about enough about TypeScript on how hard is to keep updated the dependencies in NPM hell. I will see what happens there. It's interesting, the first question, no? Why can we trust the code? Can I trust the code? The right answer, maybe there is no, well, could be for some perspective, make some checks, maybe make them by some other tools or AIs which check your code, and security validation, and so on. Actually, version 0, which we have seen without authentication, is expected to be run on localhost. That's the use case, unless you put in front of it a reverse proxy with your ngest or whatever, you manage authentication and necessary termination there. Version 1 as users, of course it's up to you to put it behind some SSL connection, so users management, so you start to deal with authentication and authorization issues with all the security possible problems you may have. I trust the AI in doing code better than I trust myself, so that's not hard, I guess. But that's the first thing, you know. And maybe if we don't trust an AI, let's ask another AI to check, automate more and more these things. The wonderful thing in these times, but it's not just today, is that we have a lot of tools available for a lot of things, you know, and automate a lot. So, and now we have also even AIs. So automating everything will be its own way, and having a lot of tools which allow us to write code faster and test it faster and validate faster and do all the fancy security scans faster and so on is what we have now. So we have tools, it's a matter of using them, and so under that perspective I'm not too worried about code written by AI, how much we can trust it. I think it can be wrong in some parts, but less than it could be wrong with human written code in most of the cases.
I can give you an example. When I was working on the package resource for CCM, I started with the package resource as the first one. I know it's a difficult one to get right, and I spent a lot of time on all the permutations you have to handle of absent files and present files and all that kind of stuff. I tested it. I'm pretty arrogant. I think I got it right. I know Puppet for a long time, and I think I got it right. Fuck. I asked Paul to review it. I say, look, this is like the Puppet provider. You know, it does the same behaviors. Idempotency needs to handle all the cases. It was fucking embarrassing. Like, it was so bad. It found so many bugs, and I guess it goes through my hand afterwards to make sure that the things are done was good. Yeah, it was humbling, but like for CCM, I spend most of the time I wrote the bulk of the code I wrote. A lot of the testing and so forth is by the AI, but this, do the groundwork, go and validate all the stuff. That's fine. But for code review, man, it's found so much dumb shit that I've done. It's ridiculous. And the outcome of it is much, 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 much better than if I had just done it myself.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Most of that. Yes.
Yeah, one of my questions was, I bet you know, you don't have to give us the exact detail. How many people worked on the Puppet Enterprise Web UI?
Oh, fuck. A large amount.
More than 20?
Yes.
How
Oh my
many?
God, yeah.
How long did it take from the beginning of Puppet Enterprise Web UI to get to this level of functionality with 20 people?
Ever?
Yeah, over time.
I don't think it's gotten there yet.
Cheers. Let's assume years,
Yeah.
like 5.
Yeah.
Let's call it 8 between friends, right?
Yeah.
Started in November.
Yeah.
Doesn't know anything about web development.
Doesn't know anything about web development.
I'm part-time.
Has a fucking job. But some of you came up to me in fear and were like, "You're crazy. That shit doesn't work."
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Guys, I knew something about Puppet at least. To make it,
That's the important thing, though.
He knows a lot about Puppet. That's why
the only thing that remains to us.
But the important thing is, you knew enough about the domain to be
Yeah,
able to be prompted to be able to
But
build
I guess we all know that pretending to say, write me a video game and a wonderful video game,
Exactly.
we know this. But we already know, of course, that if you follow the beast and the machine, the results.
Yeah, don't do what the cool kids are saying and just let it fucking roll. That's a mistake. You have to babysit and you have to know what you want and you have to write good specs. My job is now systems architect, and I can tell you one of the best things I've ever learned is how to write a spec. I learned this before all of this, but my life is so much better since I've learned how to write a spec, and the stuff is going to teach you that, and that is an amazing skill to have. Absolutely amazing skill.
Indeed. Okay, that's all. I guess questions again? No. Enough. Wonderful times we are living in some way, terrifying for others, I guess. So that's it actually, it's finished, it's done.
Adam, we should review that.